And when it got down to the point where he finally surrendered and let go to the process and started walking, and the attention momentum got onto him, and it became a movement, and it became a challenge, he stepped up and continued forth to show all of us how important it is to do the right thing.
And now for something completely different.
Welcome to
Surrounded by Idiots
Radio Podcast.
From the desert to the sea and across the globe, this is the Surrounded by Idiots Radio Podcast. This is Tony Dufresne, PhD. Welcome back. I hope you had a good week and a half since I've been out. I really appreciate the fact that a lot of you guys went on to YouTube and watched last week's video. It was my best video I've ever had. So I really appreciate that, just trying to get the word out and to make this world a little bit better for everybody, as well as myself during the same time. So this week, I want to pivot a little bit into a story about a man who just passed away this past few days ago. And if you are one of my UK listeners, you will totally know this because this is a big deal over there. Now, in the US, it didn't get a lot of traction and maybe not across the world, but I think it's a really important story. And the reasons why are multiple layered. And it's because this man, at 99 years old, made a huge difference in a lot of people's lives. And so I'd like to talk about Captain Tom Moore, what his life was, and how he used really solid character traits, character principles to guide his life into being insanely fulfilling with no regrets. So what I want to do is I want to go through quickly a little background on Captain Tom. Now, Captain Tom died this week from complications from COVID-19. He was over in the UK. He was a decorated officer in the British Army during World War II. He worked as a manager at a concrete company. And from time to time, he would race motorcycles as a hobby. He got married for a while, got divorced. He married again, and he had 2 daughters. He was with his second wife for a long period of time until he lost her to dementia in 2006. Now, since that time and into his senior years, he was very active until about 2 years ago, where he fell and it left him a little sidelined, and he found it a little more difficult to get around. Then last year, during COVID, on April the 5th, during a family barbecue, he took his walker outside, just wanting to get a little exercise. Figured he'd do a few laps around the driveway. Well, his daughter and her husband challenged him to do 100 laps for his 100th birthday coming up. And they said, tell you what, you go out there, you do these laps, we'll give you £1 per lap. So this small act led to an online social media challenge, and he decided to designate these funds for the National Health Organization over there in the UK. Well, when all was said and done, this 99-year-old man raised $53 million, recorded a popular song in the UK, wrote a book, and was knighted by the Queen. These things all happened in his late 90s. That brings me to the definition of what a hero is. And a true hero is not the Avengers. A true hero is a human being, a flawed human being. But it's somebody that steps up. It's somebody that is courageous and brave and has, as the definition says, noble qualities. But let's take a quick look at his life and see where those show up. This gentleman at, I think it was 20 years old, signed up for the British Army, did 2 campaigns. After he got out, got a job, became a good parent, according to his daughters, became a loving husband, took care of his wife in her last painful years of dementia. And then at 99, after being hurt, after not being able to walk very well at all, decided to start a charity campaign. Selfless, courageous, leading by example, putting other people first, and extremely inspirational. And his own motivational quote, he would say over and over to people, is the sun will shine again and the clouds will clear. Now again, remember all these things happened in his late 90s while being incapacitated and while rehabilitating by slowly taking laps around the driveway. Now throughout his entire life, and especially at the end, when a lot of people don't think they have any use, when a lot of people don't feel as though they can contribute any more, Captain Tom stepped up and illustrated the perfect example of somebody who lives with really solid, basic Stoic principles of life. Let's take, for instance, the law of reason in Stoicism, which means it's more of a surrender and acceptance to what is, the rational, the irrational, and you just kind of go with the flow. And one of the biggest things from a Stoic position is the fear of death, or the not fear of death. And this gentleman was quoted over and over again as saying he's never afraid of death, and it's about acceptance and surrender and just living the day that you have. There's also the Stoic foundation of wisdom, and this man gained wisdom as he went through his life to the point where he used all of that at 99 to really move the needle and raise that much money and to become an icon in his country. There's also virtue, and we talked about this last week. Wisdom leads to virtue. Virtue is thoughts and actions that are consistent with your foundational principles. And that's what Captain Tom shows us perfectly, is the fact that he took all of the things that he learned through his life. He took the understanding that it's not just about him, the selflessness, and he took that and he got himself up with his heavy-duty walker at 99 years old and went out and did laps for other people, for charity, ultimately raising $53 million. And it's not even the money at the end of all this. It's the fact that he motivated, he led by example, he inspired people there to the point where he was knighted, to the point where they allowed him to cut a song and it was the most popular in the country, to the point where if you look online, there are numerous portraits around the countryside of this gentleman. And I don't know Captain Tom. I wish I did. Those are the type of people that you would like in your life. And I'm assuming that he's like all of us. And he probably had some times during his life where things did not go well, or he wasn't acting in true integrity, like we all do. But when push comes to shove, and when it got down to the point where he finally surrendered and let go to the process and started walking, and the attention momentum got onto him, and it became a movement, and it became a challenge, he stepped up and continued forth to show all of us how important it is to do the right thing. He didn't have to get up. He's 99. I can't even imagine how hard it is to lift a drinking glass maybe at 99. And Captain Moore, when all was said and done, showed us that no matter how old you are, no matter if you have a disability, no matter if you're slightly incapacitated, no matter where you live in this world or what you do in this world, you can make a difference. And it may not end up being a viral campaign where you raise millions of dollars for a charity, but that's not the point, is it? Because what Captain Tom showed us was what it's like to be a hero, what it's like to live with virtue, to lead by example, to do the right thing, how to be brave and how to be courageous, how to inspire people by just being himself, what the right mindset is to keep himself focused and expanding on every single day. It's the perfect example of the Stoic principle that Marcus Aurelius talked about all the time. The obstacle is the way. He got hurt. He started getting up to exercise, started raising a little money, put it online. The obstacle was him battling through this painful rehabilitation. That was the way. That one obstacle, him getting up with his daughter and her husband saying, "I'll give you £1 for a lap" around the driveway, ended up raising $53 million and changing people's lives. You can make a difference. So the call to action here, a couple things. The first one is do a little inventory on yourself. Do you have your pillars in place? Do you have your foundational character traits in place? And are you consistent with them in terms of your thoughts and actions? Remember, wisdom, virtue. Wisdom is the knowledge process, the understanding of what your pillars are, of your character pillars, your foundational stuff. Virtue is your thoughts that come from that, and then your actions that are consistent with that and in integrity. It's a very simple formula, but you have to have the foundational pillars in place first. Again, for the 1,000th time, it's like building a house on a bad foundation. If you lay your concrete not level, if you don't use good concrete, the house will not stand. And the bigger you try to build the house, the harder it will be to maintain that size and that expansion unless you have a solid foundation. And that's the key here. And that's what Captain Tom Moore showed us. A solid foundation, knowledge, leads to thoughts and actions virtue that can change the world. And the last call to action would be something that you might think about once in a while during times where you may be a little indecisive or not really know where you want to go or not really know if you are in integrity or not in an action that you're planning or thinking about. WWCTMD. What would Captain Tom Moore do? Think about this man's story. Use it as an example. That's it for this week. A couple things. First of all, if you want to get a hold of me, you can go to tony@javabud.com, JAVABUD. The javabud.com website is up, but I'm shifting things a little bit, and I've just today launched the new podcast website, SBIRpodcast.com, Surrounded by Idiots Radio, SBIRpodcast.com. It's a lot easier to get to the podcasts. It's streamlined. There's really nothing else on there except for the episodes. Last but not least, I have Alexa Flash briefings up. Every single day you can get 30 seconds to a minute of me talking about some random stuff over my last 280 episodes. And it's a little brief snippet every single day. You can sign up in the skills section in the Alexa app. So it's Alexa Flash Briefing, Surrounded by Idiots Radio Podcast. And thank you again for the viral YouTube video from last week, for the Amanda Gorman video, if you haven't watched it, and the great feedback that I got from everybody. I very much appreciate that. I hope things are great, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.